presentation and update by PG&E of San Joaquin County Office of Emergency Services regarding the public safety power shutoff. We're going to have a presentation by PG&E government representative Dylan George. We're going to take a public comment. Then we'll have another update by Deputy Director General Services Emergency Operations Sheila Lima. So, Mr. George, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the Board of Supervisors. As you mentioned, my name is Dylan George, Local Public Affairs Representative for Pacific Gas and Electric. I appreciate you having me here, giving me a few minutes to talk about wildfire safety and emergency preparedness, two very big topics on everybody's mind these days. So I'm going to begin my presentation here. I'd be happy to take questions along the way or wait till the end, whatever you guys prefer. So PG&E's Community Wildfire Safety Program has three pillars to it, as you see on your screen right now. The first pillar is real-time monitoring and intelligence. We have set up a wildfire safety operations center at our general office in San Francisco. It's staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week during wildfire season. We've also expanded and are continuing to expand our network of weather stations and high-definition cameras in high wildfire threat areas throughout the state. What we do, PG&E has our own internal meteorology department. And so what we do is we take all of this information that is gathered out in the field from these weather stations, high definition cameras, and from other partners that we work with. And that's what comes into this Wildfire Safety Operations Center to try to be constantly mitigating fire risk and also make decisions on things like potential public safety power shutoffs, which is what I'll spend the majority of the presentation talking about. So the second pillar to our wildfire safety program is new and enhanced safety measures. And this comes in several forms, one of them being increased vegetation management, again, mostly focused in high wildfire threat areas. Accelerated safety inspections. PG&E has inspected all of our overhead electric facilities in wildfire threat areas and has conducted a lot of repairs on equipment that needed to be modernized and changed out and so forth. I believe we have conducted inspections on every area that we were able to get into. There's still a little bit of snow issues in some of the higher country of the state. And we have either completed or are scheduled soon to complete all of the replacement work that needs to be done for that. Also in new and enhanced safety measures is, as I mentioned, public safety power shutoff, and I'll spend the majority of the presentation discussing that. Third pillar of the wildfire safety program is system hardening and resiliency. What this is a long-term project to make our system a lot more hardy and wildfire safe. It's going to come in many forms. Some of it is going to be replacing wood poles with steel or composite material poles, something a little stronger, a little more resistant to high winds, to tree contacts, things like that. A lot of it is also going to be replacing the overhead conductor wire with something that we call tree wire, which is a stronger coated version of this wire, which again is hopefully able to withstand if a tree were to fall into it, if we were to have a high wind driven event or something were to come in and obstruct the line, that hopefully the line can maintain itself and not fall on the ground and create a potential risk. So I mentioned this is a long-term process. PG&E has 7,100 miles of overhead power lines in high wildfire threat areas throughout the state. So a lot of this work is happening in earnest right now, but a lot of it is going to be scheduled for the coming years. So it's both a short-term and a long-term process that is being undertaken right now as we speak. So as I mentioned, you see on your screen here a picture of the Wildfire Safety Operations Center. It is staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week during the high wildfire threat areas. Our goal is to have 1,300 new weather stations installed by 2022. We're installing hundreds of them this year alone. We share the data publicly. You can see the website up there where it's available. We also use other weather stations that are out there that partners like the National Weather Service and so forth have. So the key is just to get as much information from the ground, constantly feeding into this decision-making process. We're also supporting the installation of, our goal is 600 high-definition cameras by 2022. There are currently dozens of them, I don't have the exact number, throughout the wildfire danger areas of California. There's a website up there that I would direct you to if you're interested in this. It's called alertwildfire.org. This is a program conducted by the University of Nevada, Reno, that PG&E is among several partners of. And you can actually go on that website and monitor these cameras in real time. So you could go on right now and see what was happening at a particular location. These cameras are put in strategically located areas where they have a wide visibility into areas that are prone to wildfire danger. The idea here being prevention, but also being able to spot new wildfire starts immediately, because a lot of times if you can spot that start, somebody can get to the zone and put the fire out before it becomes a major devastating fire. Oh, wrong way. So as I mentioned, I will focus mostly on public safety power shutoff because that's the part of the wildfire safety program that does have the potential to affect a county like San Joaquin, and is something that I'm sure you guys have heard a lot of talk about lately. So PG&E began this public safety power shutoff program last year. It was the first year that we set up the potential to turn off lines in the event of high wildfire danger. So last year, we only considered shutting off lines in Tier 3 areas, and I'm going to have a map later in the presentation that's going to explain what that is. This year we have expanded that to the potential of also shutting off Tier 2 areas if the conditions warrant that action being necessary. We've also expanded the program. Last year we only considered distribution level lines, which are the lower voltage lines that really feed neighborhoods and communities and stuff like that. This year we have expanded that to the possibility, if conditions warrant, of possibly shutting down transmission lines. And that's why it could affect areas even beyond the high wildfire threat areas. So you see on your screen here, oh, and I should mention, as I mentioned, we instituted this program last year. We had one event last year. It was last October, I think October 8th, if memory serves. It affected some parts of the North Bay and then some parts of the Central Sierras. The closest that it got to this area was it affected portions of Calaveras, Amador, El Dorado counties. In that event, the power was off in some places for as much as 3 days. We have had so far this year one event. It was June 8th. And in that event, power was restored within 16 hours. So we were happy with the progress that has been made. A lot of lessons have been learned and better practices and tactics for getting the power on as soon as you can in an event like this. So you see on your screen, these are the factors that would come into play for a decision to potentially shut down power. A red flag warning declared by the National Weather Service. The National Weather Service puts out forecasts 7 days in advance at all times, and they will alert when there's a red flag warning for potential high wildfire threat danger on the horizon. So that is kind of our first cue to get our emergency apparatus up and running, and decide whether we need to look at a possible event like this. So some of the factors up there: low humidity, sustained winds. Winds are a big factor in this. If we have high winds, that's often what leads to high wildfire threat danger, leads to danger of starting of fires, but also danger of rapid spread of fires. And then conditions of dry fuel on the ground. So if you add up all of these factors, these are things that are more likely to be present as we get later into the fire season, particularly into the fall. Our historical weather patterns in this part of the world, we don't tend to see high winds in the dead of summer months. And also the low humidity levels is something that we would see later in the fall. When we had our shutdown event last year in October, we had humidity levels down in like the 7% range, which is extremely dry. In addition, dry fuel, obviously fuel conditions on the ground are just going to continue to dry out as we get through the summer and into the fall until we get our first significant